Thank you very much, Lisa. You just bear with me a moment. I will get the slide up. Thank you. Well, may I acknowledge, first of all, my pleasure in being here, my first time in Brisbane, and my thanks to Jo Crawford from the International Women's Development Agency in Melbourne for inviting me to come here, and to Rob Francis from World Vision. The particular aspect of human trafficking that I'm going to talk about is actually the demand. I'm delighted also that Australia is doing so much, and I agree with some of what Duncan has said in relation to poverty. It's one of the factors, but it's not the only factor, and I'm going to look at a few others. Now, what I want to do, first of all, is just draw your attention to the two logos. One on the left-hand side, which is the organization to which I belong, Unanima International, working at the United Nations for systemic change, and then our current campaign. But let's have a look first at the global scene. People trafficking around the world. According to the UN, it's about 4 million people. And another figure that's given is 2 million are trafficked for the sex industry or for sexual exploitation. Generally speaking, it's something like this. The transit and the countries of origin are in blue, and the countries of destination are in red. So it's not rocket science to look and see that the blue countries are the poorer countries in the world, and the red countries are the richer countries in the world. Now, of course, they're trafficked across borders, within borders, and it's much more complex than this map actually indicates. It's multi-layered and multifaceted. The aspect of human trafficking that we're looking at, that I'm going to look at, is actually demand. And there are three elements to this. We have the buyer, we have the bought, and we have the business. And I'm going to look particularly at the buyer. Let me explain more fully. Okay, so the buyer. Again, according to UN statistics, 1 in 8 men buys sex. Now that ranges from 7% to 73%. It's about 7% in the UK, and it's about 73% in Thailand. But I know the next speaker knows a lot more about that and is going to tell you more. What do buyers want? Well, notice what they say. There's a market for it. And women will always be drawn into prostitution if there's a demand. Notice the emphasis here from the buyers on women will be drawn into it. What's the profile of the buyer? We're told it's every man. Research again has told us it's young, old, rich, students, all professions and none. A woman who ran a brothel in the Philippines, she said her best client was the mayor. And he came looking for virgins. Recently, I've been in Mumbai at a trafficking conference. There, a couple of days before we did the conference, which lasted 4 days, I was taken around to the red light district in Mumbai by 4 young social workers. And in this hotel that you see, or building that you see on the right-hand side of the slide, it's rather run down. It has about 160 rooms with 3 to 4 young women in a room. In one 24-hour period, 20,000 men had visited that building. What do buyers want? Again, we've done some research on this. It appears that they want sex acts that their wives or their partners or their girlfriends won't do, without any obligations, without any responsibilities, to feel powerful, exotic. There was a survey done in the East End of London by 4 young women at the university there. And they surveyed 100 young men between the ages of 25 and 35. And some of the responses that they gave to them were like this. Well, we're white men. We're not going to marry black girls or Asian girls, but we'd like to have the experience of having sex with them. So where do you go? And vice versa, young black men saying the same. The bought. The second element. That's the buyer, this is the bought. The harrowing stories of the bought. I have met them. They're between the ages of 15 in our organization, between the ages of 15 and 47, the eldest. But the average age is about 19. 80% of those bought are women and children. 1 million girls between the ages of 5 and 15 brought into the sex industry every year. Ladies and gentlemen, these are not my statistics. They're UN statistics, and they're from good research. I've met the bought. In my work in the UK, where we have 5 safe houses, I have met them, and I could tell you a host of stories. It's likely that this is the element that you too are familiar with from the media, because this receives high profile. The element that we find is missing in this piece, the factor that's missing in this piece, is the buyer.